Okay, so in this video we're going to look at mitosis. So this is going to be Biology Review page 3. Please excuse my terrible hand. This is really close to me and it looks terrible. Okay, so we need to figure out how do we go from being one fertilized egg to trillions of cells. And trillions of specialized cells that are different from that one fertilized egg. So how does that all happen? Well, it's mitosis. Mitosis is the quick answer, I guess you could say. Okay, I'm still making these videos during my class, so I will have to talk to them a little bit. Guys, if I end up going too fast for you, you're just going to have to like keep up because I can't pause this. So, sorry. And that was them, so there they are. Okay, so if you'll remember, just remember the T for two. Mitosis creates two identical daughter cells. It's a cell division producing two identical daughter cells. And the identical is important here. This is for growing, for growth, for healing, and to replace old dying cells. So you want them to be identical. You want them to be just like the cells that they came from, so that you know, if you're healing, if you cut your hand, you don't want the new cells that are coming in there to be like, you know, eyeball cells or to be like liver or something like that. You want them to be just like the skin that is around that cut. You don't even want them to be like a skin from a different part of your body. You want them to be like the skin just like from around that cut, so that it fills in correctly and heals right. When your bone breaks, mitosis has to happen to fill in that crack, because to the cells around the crack, it's like this big gaping hole it has to fill in. So you want it to fill in with the right kind of bone tissue. Okay? So a cell is alive, and a lot of times we forget that cells are alive. So if you will remember, to be alive, you do what? Okay, my class. What do you do to be alive?
Breathe.
No. You arg. Arg. You have to arg. So you arg. Adapt. Reproduce. And grow. You don't have to breathe. You don't have to have a heartbeat. You don't have to have like brain situations. Plants don't do that. They're alive. Every single one of your cells, and if you'll remember me giving you the example of, you are like one of those pictures like at the elementary school where from a distance it looks like the school, but up close it's a bunch of pictures of the little kids that are in the school. That's what you are. From a distance you look like one organism, but up close you are trillions of individual living things bundled together, arguing together as one thing. It's pretty amazing.
Whoa.
Hunter is super excited about being loud on my video. Okay, so I know, I'm sorry.
Hi, Mom.
I don't think she has to watch it. So the whole lifespan,
Oh, man, maybe on YouTube.
you are on YouTube. So the whole lifespan of a cell is called the cell cycle. And there are 4 stages of this, and we're going to draw these out. we're going to draw these out over to the side. So kind of think about your paper as, you know, leaving this area blank for our little drawing. So I'll go ahead and start the drawing, because when I did this first period, it did not go gracefully, because I didn't do it very gracefully. Okay, so let's start. I'll start by drawing a little, upside down C, or sideways C with one color. These colors don't matter, just, you know, make them different from each other. And then I'm going to fill it in, finish it off with a different color.
Do we use the same colors for the X?
Yes. And then this other color, you're going to fill this part in like this. Okay, so there are 4 stages of the cell cycle, but just like anything else that we give like divisions of, you can always kind of change up the division. So really, there's 2 divisions. There's the division where the cell divides, which is what we call M phase. And then there's the rest of the life, which is called interphase. And interphase is actually divided up into 3 stages, okay? So M is divided into 4. I mean, there's a lot of different divisions that you can do, but the 4 main stages are going to be right here. Interphase has 3, and then there's M. So I know that's a little like very not well said, but now, just so that you don't write where you shouldn't write, I'm going to go ahead and do this.
What is that?
This is going to be our first stage of interphase.
This little thing to color in.
An arrow. Yeah, that's supposed to be an arrow. And keep those colors handy.
So is that arrow supposed to be pointing out or down?
Going this way.
Is that supposed to be the same color once again?
Mm-hmm. So the M phase is kind of the part that gets all of the talk in this discussion. Interphase is what gets all the talk when we're just talking about cells, like cells living and having all their mitochondria do their thing and the ribosomes do their thing and all that stuff. That's all happening in here. M phase is just the division, just the reproduction of the cell. Okay? So the first part of a cell's life begins right here in what is called G G1. Okay? So G1 is the first stage, and I'm going to scoot over just a little bit. Underline that. I like, to keep my colors kind of corresponding. It helps when you're studying. So G1 is the very first phase of a cell's life. So this is like infancy of a cell. It's where the new cells are just growing and doing work, just doing their thing. So the new cells is growing and doing work. Okay? So it's the first growth phase. And if you'll notice, it's the first part of interphase too. So the second stage is called S, which means synthesis. Now it's very important before you make a new cell that you replicate the DNA so that the new cell that is being created will also have a copy. If you don't do this part, then you'll split the DNA in half, and then both cells will not have enough DNA to code for anything. So S has to happen before the cell can split. So this is where the DNA is replicated. So the cell ends up with, and if you'll remember, we have like 9 feet of DNA inside the nucleus of every single cell of your body. That's pretty amazing. 9 feet. So from the ceiling to the floor, inside the nucleus of every single cell of your body has your entire genome. And then it gets doubled. So that's already crowded. Cells don't just replicate the DNA just because. So they replicate it because there was a trigger or whatever for it to know that it's about to go into, or to have that trigger, that signal that it's about to go into division. So the cell ends up with 2 full sets of DNA. So 2, diploid. And then the third is called G2. So G2 is just waiting to replicate. So if it is in G1, there's actually a little notch off here. It can enter G0. We're not going to really talk about that, but like your nervous system does that. Your nerve cells don't regenerate like your skin cells do. They enter G0 and then they just chill there, for various periods of time, but possibly your entire life. And that's where they just hang out. But if there's a signal that makes it go into the synthesis phase where the DNA is replicated, then G2 is like, okay, we're just going to kind of make the cell finish up our work, make the cell chill out. Because once we go into the cell division and we have to expose that DNA, that's like you having brain surgery while you're running a marathon. If that cell doesn't chill out, when you're having brain surgery, you need to be still, and everything needs to be calm. And so the cell does the same thing. Whenever the nucleus disappears during mitosis, the cell needs to be like sedated, basically. So G2 is kind of getting ready for that, finishing up work and getting the cell kind of stops so that this can begin. Okay, so it's just the second growth phase is what you can say, but it's just getting ready to go into division. So it's just growth, work, and getting ready to divide. The cell has to kind of chill out. So these 3 together, again, are called interphase. Wow, that got really dark. Why did that do that?
We can't see it.
What is happening? Oh, I guess it was reflecting off that shiny part. Sorry. Interphase. So you could say that the cell has two parts, interphase and division. Interphase is made of G1S and G2. Okay? Then there comes division, which is the M phase. Now in this section, we're going to say that this is mitosis. When we get to the reproductive systems, we'll talk about the other division, which is meiosis. Which is, extremely important, or we would not have new people. But we're going to talk about mitosis right now. So can y'all remember the 4 phases of mitosis? So I think somebody said it the other day.
Metaphase.
That's one of them.
Metaphase, anaphase, telophase.
Very good. So remember PMAT, okay? The 4 phases. PMAT, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So PMAT. So then this 4th part of the cell cycle is divided into 4 more parts. So there's all types of divisions you can do. So if you remember that the word part pro means before, that literally tells you this happens before anything else. Now, not all of these are actual literal word part meanings, but these are to help you. I just remember meta middle. I want you to think about that. Doesn't necessarily mean middle. And just remember ana, away. And then telo does mean final. It's one of the words that it can stand for. So it's the final phase. Nowadays, telophase is broken up into, there's another one, cytokinesis at the end. It's just the very end of telophase. So okay, and then mitosis. The reason we go through mitosis is to replicate somatic cells. Which are body cells. Again, we do it for healing, to grow, and to replicate. Cells are alive, so living things die. So to replicate dying cells. Okay? So in the next video, because this one has gotten pretty long, I'm going to talk about the 4 phases of mitosis.